Okay. All right. Wow. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. Welcome to Tuesday. It's welcome to live TV. I hit the wrong button. So, welcome to Invisible Condition. It is not all in your head. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. We created this show for you, because honestly, we wanted everybody with an invisible condition to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that they have a voice, they have a community, and they are not alone. Because you're not alone. No matter what you think, you're not alone. So I am so excited for my guest today. Her name is Effie Siverts. And from childhood, Effie was challenged by many unusual health challenges like extreme flexibility, heart arrhythmia at age 6. Yikes. Chronic respiratory illness, rib and joint subluxations, GI issues, all kinds of stuff. By her 20s, doctors only provided just a simple little diagnosis of benign hypermobility syndrome and told her that to, live life carefully. But by age 38, Effie had spent almost 30 years in chiropractic care and 15 plus years in and out of like physical therapy, and still had to undergo major pelvic surgery due to weak connective tissues and just all kinds of stuff, ongoing post-op complications led her to finally get the diagnosis of a genetic disorder called Ehlers Danlos syndrome, type 3 hypermobility. Man, I gotta do more face exercises or something before I say that again. This diagnosis was finally connected the dots, for everything, and of all the lifelong struggles and all the stuff that she had gone through. Currently coping the management of her that her body produces college. What did I say? Oh, you know what? Currently coping and management strategies are the only tools available. That's what I meant to say. I promise. I've got my head on straight today. I swear. Despite her physical challenges, though, she is amazing. She is an accomplished cyclist, personal trainer, and bodybuilder, and business owner, and sister-in-law, by the way. So she is married to my wife's brother. So this is fun. This is going to be awesome. We've known her forever, and we love her. So Effie is 44 years and lives with her husband and 2 teenagers in Oregon, and they're awesome. And they were just out here, so we just saw them. It was fun. So anyway, I'm going to bring her on now. Effie, good morning.
Thank you, Jeff. That was a lovely introduction.
Oh, this is fun. I can't believe I just completely, sometimes reading is hard.
I totally agree.
I'm just going to say it.
I probably would have handled it just about as eloquently as you. And
I swear, like sometimes the lines just start repeating themselves and you go, wait, didn't I just read that? And I go, oh, man, okay. So anyway, well, thank you for your patience, everybody. So you you've had a lot. It's been crazy. And
that's the short story. Yeah, it's been a lot.
Right.
But
So
you and I both are here today with a smile, and that gives
that's
me
right.
hope.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm gonna throw out a question. I'm just curious. Um, I'll get to these questions in a second, but I'm just curious because I like to know this kind of random stuff about people.
Absolutely.
So what's your favorite book you're reading right now?
Um,
See, I told you I'd throw you off.
yeah, a bit. Well, the funny thing is I don't have time to read. So,
Not even online or anything, or like listen to it or anything like that.
oh yeah, no, I have been taking up more Audible books.
There
So
you go.
thanks to my mother, she turned me on to that. So that's been lovely.
Okay, so
Um,
what's your favorite book to listen to then?
well, right now I'm enthralled with a series of books by this beautiful author, Jessica Corey.
There you
And right now we're on the third and final book of this series. And my husband and I especially can't wait. The kids are like, can we please get back to like doing our video games? We're like, no, we got to finish the story, So yeah, that's really delightful right now. It's a
Nice.
series called, well, this current book title is Phoenix Rising, I believe. So
There
yeah.
you go. That
Yeah,
sounds
but I'm also enthralled with the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon, but that book has been on my nightstand for quite a few years, unfortunately.
because
It's a bit of
nobody's
a
reading
chore.
it to you, right? Yeah,
Yeah, I have to
I get it.
personally read that one meticulously.
Yeah,
Yeah, soak it
yeah.
all.
I get it. I get it. Well, honestly, I kind of wanted
Yeah,
to just throw you off and get you
good job.
catch you off guard for a second. So there you go.
Thanks.
So anyway, as you were growing up and in your 30s and stuff, you kind of had some what would have seemingly been unrelated challenges,
Yeah.
but it took until you were like 40 to figure out what the diagnosis was and tie it all together. What the heck was how was growing up with all of that? How did that go? What was that like?
Confusing is the best word
Yeah.
because every time I had something, it would be an isolated acute treatment type case. And so, like you said, the dots weren't connected. And so, okay, we're going to deal with this. And eventually, enough of these odd things were occurring that I would have doctors joke and say, hey, wouldn't it be interesting to do a case study of you? I'm like, I would love for you to take me seriously, but nobody ever did. So when I was going back through kind of my history of symptoms, like what are some of the first things I started to experience? Like you mentioned in my brief intro there, heart arrhythmia at age 6. I had sun allergies. So I would go
Oh man.
out to, wild waves growing up in Seattle. I would go out to play on the Pacific coast in the Puget Sound, and I would have reactions to being out in the sun too long. So I would get severe sun blisters, rashes, sun poisoning. So I would feel that toxicity in my system, that overwhelming fatigue and sickness within my body.
Yeah.
Metal allergies, having my ears pierced at the age of 8. I had chronic ear infections, easy bruising, joint subluxations, knees, elbows, wrists, ribs, all going out of place, not out of place, not full
Yeah.
dislocations, but
Yeah.
subluxations where they're just severe pain.
Yeah.
And so by age 9, I was seeing a chiropractor regularly.
Mhm.
And, for me, that was normal life, learning how to protect myself, learning how to control and limit my exposure to those things, learning how to manage my ear health care when I would deal with chronic ear infections from trying to be a normal kid, having ears pierced or
Going swimming.
chronic, yeah,
Yeah.
going chronic respiratory illnesses.
Mm.
And with that, also chronic fatigue. So I was always tired. I was always exhausted. I had very finite energy resources. And, but in relation to like the chronic respiratory illnesses, it wasn't just exposure to viruses and bacteria like tonsillitis and bronchitis and all of those challenges, but the complications that would come with them, like strep throat, or with that lingering bronchial respiratory illness, I would be sick for 3 months at a time
Oh,
until I
geez.
would really feel recovered. And
Yeah.
that lasted all the way through into my early 30s until I really started to take better care of myself and manage. And I have to say now in my later years, now that I'm 44, these are the healthiest years of my life because I've learned the management techniques.
Nice. And that's important. That's huge to be able to, some people don't learn their whole life and make excuses. So it's better to learn them. Let's learn them.
Absolutely.
So just throwing this out there to the live audience. Anybody else out there had a diagnosis that took a while, that that was difficult, that was like, what is it? And getting all these crazy diagnoses and finally landing on something that was right, but had a difficult time. I mean, anybody else out there, we would love to hear from you. Get on Facebook, watch the show, and you can talk to Effie about it. Send us a message, and we'll see if we can figure it out. Or it's always good to relate. If you relate, let's talk. So
and that's the thing, when I get those opportunities to share my story with even just an individual person, whether it's a stranger or a friend that's trying to find answers. Oftentimes it comes more in relation to a stranger because they're witnessing my journey. They get the courage to come and approach me and ask how I'm accomplishing this or what I'm doing to manage this. And I describe what my symptoms are, what my life experience has been. And they turn around and basically tell me that I've just described them. And it's a very, very humbling experience because finally you get that validation that you're not alone, that you're not suffering alone. And that's massive to have that connection.
And sometimes it takes somebody that doesn't know you super well to notice that, because the people that live with you every day and see you all the time don't notice. There's things that I have going on that people in my house don't even notice anymore. But I go out there in the world and people are like, what's going on there? So it does. Sometimes it's the strangers are kind of the blessing in disguise, because then you get to tell your story a little bit and help somebody else. It's cool. So,
and then it also gives you that validation of how far you've come through that journey, through that challenge, and to recognize the accomplishments that you now hold because of the journey you've taken.
Yeah. As tough as it's been, you look back and go, wow, that's true. Look at all that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's that does take there's always that certain person. Everybody and love could tell you the same thing, but then somebody else that you don't know, like the out of town expert with the briefcase, is what I like to call them. That the stranger on the street tells you, and you go, oh yeah,
outsiders.
And then my wife, and then Catherine's going, well, duh, yeah, I've said you that like 100 times, but this I heard, so totally, I get it.
We apologize to our immediate family members for that fault. That is just
our thing, though. Come on, everybody does it. It's like, you hear it from everybody else all the time, and then but anyway, I digress. So you lived a long time without knowing any cause of anything, or you just knew that there was something wrong, and you didn't know what it was and didn't know why. How did you do it how do you cope, like when the symptoms flared up, when you didn't know what was going on?
In those cases, you really do kind of expect to treat them as isolated cases. So, just a few examples, dealing with a rough case of strep throat, for instance. I had developed, you go through that course of medication thinking you're just following the normal course and you're going to get better, but you don't, and your symptoms get worse. So then you pursue trying to find out what's going on. So then it's that emergency ENT doctor that discovers that you've now established an abscess in your throat. But now that you just have an abscess, then you have to be wary that now that you've had one, you're likely to have them recurrent. And I had 3 before my doctor said, okay, let's take those tonsils out. And I was 25 years old when that happened. So you just kind of deal with those acute moments in your medical history. A lot of oral, and it's funny because this whole concept of it's not all in your head.
Yeah.
I really began to joke that it literally was, because most of my problems were from the neck up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
have plenty from the neck down now, but those are some of the changes that occur with age-related, that the changes that happen with the production of collagen as we age, and how those things kind of start to degrade with time
Yeah.
and function. So, um, at those moments, they were just dealing with those acute things, excess
Mhm.
bone growths on my jaw, having surgery to remove those only to have them regrow in 10 years, dealing with dislocation of my actual throat and the symptoms of learning how to swallow and position and posture myself properly,
Yeah.
dealing with eye random eye illnesses and diseases and injuries and neurologic things. And on top of all of this is the mental health that comes with the chronic addressing management of these challenges.
Right. Because it's
Yeah,
freaking mentally exhausting when
it
you're
is.
constantly. I totally get that, because when you're in pain all the time, it's mentally exhausting, because when you're out in public, you feel like you need to almost conceal it, because who's going to understand? I mean, I don't anymore, because I just don't care. Honestly, I mean,
Yeah,
really, a wise mentor of mine was like, you know what? Let it go, man. Just
very
just
good.
cut loose. Who cares? If they don't get it, it's because they don't get it. Move on. They're gonna forget about you in about 4 seconds after
Yeah,
they leave your presence anyway. So just live your life, be yourself. Don't worry about it. So, but
exactly.
I get it though. When you're still trying to figure it out, it's tough.
And in recent
So
years, I kind of turned it into a joke. And when I share with people what I experience, I was like, well, I just never know what I'm going to wake up with each day. So it could be out of the blue,
right,
totally random. Like, I think the weekend that COVID hit, I woke up with benign paroxysmal vertigo. That
there you
lasted
go.
for 8 weeks while I was doing house restoration for my parents. I'm trying to paint a porch deck upside down, dealing with vertigo. You know, it's just, you learn to manage in
Yeah,
spite of the extreme challenges that you're presented with just in daily living.
right. Yeah,
So,
totally. I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, what I've realized through doing the show and having so many different guests with so many different things, there are
yeah.
so many similarities between all of us.
Oh,
Everybody with an invisible condition, everybody. I don't care what it is, how
yeah.
rare or how common it is. There are certain challenges that we all go through, which is why I say at the beginning of the show, we are a community, because we are, because there's so many things that we all go through that we could so be relating to each other through, and helping each other no matter what the condition is. So
100%. I've gone back and watched multiple of your on-demand videos with some of your other interviews,
yeah,
and people with completely unrelated or horrifically challenging health conditions outside of my own, that verbatim are expressing the challenges of daily management and living with
right,
that condition. And like, everything they're saying I could relate to, and it's not the
yeah,
condition I deal with. So thank you
it
for making this platform available for us to share our stories.
you're welcome. I absolutely, that is why we did it, because I thought, there's got to be a way, there's got to be a platform for
Yeah.
people to do this, and it's so healthy to be able to tell your story. And I mean, there's more than that with some, but that's why
It's,
we did it, so
it's that
um,
validation that comes with it.
exactly. That's a huge part of it. That's not the whole reason, but that's a huge part of it, that people
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, well, yeah, so there's other people out there that are dealing with stuff. So it helps more than people know, until they get done with the show and you go, oh, all right,
Yes.
So anyway, well, speaking of TV show, we are doing a TV show. We do have a commercial coming up, so we are going to do that. And so I'm going to take you off the screen for just a second. Thank you for everything. This first segment, in the second segment, we're going to be talking about how you turn some of those challenges into triumphs. So I'm excited about that. So I'm gonna take you off the screen. Thank you, and we will be back in just a minute. And thank you for sticking around, and I can't wait for you to hear some of this the cool stuff that she's been doing. So stick around. We'll see you in a minute.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, Effie.
Thank you.
Man, I feel like we never get to everything we want to in any segment. So time marches on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we were talking about at the beginning, at the first segment. I think we were leading up to the fact that you actually had to have surgery for some of this stuff to get done what you needed to get done to address the stuff that needed to be addressed. And it ended up being like major pelvic reconstructive surgery at one point. And but that ended up being kind of the turning point after dealing with all of this for so long. Yeah. So if you're sitting in front of somebody that was facing that, what would you tell them?
Advocate for yourself. It's something I promote constantly in my communications with clients, friends, strangers, is when they approach me about something that they're concerned with or trying to get medical attention for, I just say, you've got to advocate, because that is they're not going to look out for you. You have to look out for you. You have to invest in that self-awareness, that body awareness. It's basically the philosophy that doctors give you when they say, hey, start doing weekly, monthly, manual breast exams, for example. That's a way to get in tune with your body for men and women, right? When you start detecting something that's normal or abnormal. It's very much like a condition for EDS because it's affecting so many facets of your body that unless you're intimately in tune with yourself, there's no knowing when something is right or on the way to going wrong.
Yeah.
So I had been spending a lot of time in physical therapy. I was educating myself, learning what was working, what was helping, what was stabilizing, what was triggering. And I've even had some physical therapists steer me wrong. So I've had to learn what advice is healthy, good, worth practicing, trying, experimenting, and then understanding, okay, that's their advice, but it doesn't work for me. So it really comes down to understanding your specific scenario. And it has been invaluable for me in how I manage my care to take that investment with myself. And when it came to the point of needing my pelvic reconstructive surgery, I approached my gynecological doctor to validate the fact that I was experiencing pelvic prolapse. And I did not need approval from my family members when I got her validation to say, we are going to proceed with surgery. I contacted my pelvic therapist to say, I'm sorry, PT is not helping anymore. I've got to take a surgical intervention approach. I didn't have that diagnosis for EDS when I was making those decisions, though. I was just, again, dealing with an acute treatment. And so in my postoperative care, as I continued to detect ongoing prolapse and going back to the 3 surgeons I had involved and saying, what's going on? Why is this such a struggle in this recovery process? Then those questions started to get addressed. It was my urologist actually who said, well, what type of what subtype of Ehlers-Danlos are you? Turns out there's 13.
Oh, geez.
And of the 13, the one that I've officially been diagnosed with, which is type 3 hypermobility, is the only one that does not have a genetic marker. So you can definitely pursue genetic testing to understand, which kind of is an expensive route. But when you have a condition like mine that doesn't have a genetic marker to say that you have it, it's a dead end. It's kind of an expensive waste. So I have never pursued genetic testing because her referral for me was to go to a rheumatologist. And I got all of those resources. Once she gave me those keywords, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I started doing all of the research, following that rabbit trail, or going down the rabbit hole, whatever. And adding a whole myriad of extra doctors to my arsenal of resources, rectal specialists, gastroenterologists, rheumatologists. And through the Ehlers-Danlos Society website, it is a wealth of information about all of the various 13 subtypes. But through there, they have diagnostic criteria, which I was able to take to the rheumatologist appointment and have him go through those Baton score tests to determine what level I had. And I met, I believe, 7 of the 9 markers. And I think you need 3 in order to be considered an EDS individual.
So you were just an overachiever. Yeah. You just,
most things in life, yes. So
no, I'm going to hit 7. Yeah.
And so that, again, validated. It's like, okay, now I understand it. But when that diagnosis was received, it changed everything. It's when you have a name for something, you then claim ownership over it and not over you. And I was talking with my husband a little bit earlier this morning in preparation, and he said it's essentially like a child not knowing he has type 1 diabetes or knowing he has type 1 diabetes. When you know what you're dealing with, your approach isn't confusion and frustration because you're not well. It's, I know what I'm dealing with, so now I can pursue appropriate management to deal with it.
Yes.
And that is a massive part of that learning process with any type of condition, is when you can call it by name and you can start addressing it for the symptoms that you're experiencing, because it's a myriad. I mean, I only touched on a few of them, but I mentioned the arrhythmia, the sun allergy, the metal, the easy bruising, skin fragility, POTS, mast cell activation syndrome. These are all things I deal with. I take daily allergy medication to keep my histamine responses at bay or semi-controlled because, it's everything from environmental factors to things I can't control. Driving through wildfire smoke. Somebody at the gym has cologne on. We don't use any ammonia or bleach products in our home. Things that are going to trigger respiratory distress for me. There's so many facets that come with learning how to manage a condition like this, because EDS is it's got a lot of comorbidities. So you're dealing with dysautonomia, which in itself has other autoimmune conditions. And so from there, when I got that diagnosis, the rheumatologist, he's an ally for me. He's willing to be there for me. But honestly, he can't do anything. There is not a thing, a treatment or a cure that can be done to fix me. So it comes down to saying, thanks, I'm glad you're in my corner, but I got to do this on my own with the support of the people around me that have support me. And my husband is my inseparable, invaluable ally in helping do this.
Yes.
But at the same time, we then got that awareness that this is a genetic condition. So where did it come from? And when I said it was kind of this overwhelming response of, okay, now we're dealing with something we can now call by name, it was just this aha awakening moment that my mother, all of her lifetime of chronic illnesses, confusing, canary in the mine shaft kind of things, like if it's going to happen to her, it's going to happen and it's going to be weird and unusual. And now we understand why she suffered. But it wasn't until my diagnosis that she received that understanding and doctors started taking her seriously. And by that time she was almost 60, 65 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's been people that I've talked to that it took one particular guest 12 years to get the correct diagnosis. So sometimes you just don't know. But in that vein of sarcasm alert here for anybody that doesn't recognize it naturally. I'm going to say something that I have had said to me so many times, and I'm sure you've probably heard it a couple times, but so now you've had surgery, so you're all good, right? You're cool now. It's good. You don't suffer. It fixed it, right?
Yeah. No.
Sorry, I almost didn't get that out. It's
I have personally received that. So after my surgery, friends or acquaintances would see me and say, "Oh, you had your surgery. You're all better." I'm like, no, not even. And things kind of escalated. But see, that's the thing with EDS. And that's why it takes so long to diagnose, because it's that breakdown of that collagen. So those dots start to get aligned as you've aged and as those symptoms kind of compound. And so most people don't get a diagnosis of this condition until they're in their mid 30s or older. And unless they're one of those special subtypes that definitely has more severity, there are certain variations that have more life-threatening circumstances, like vascular EDS, where organs can actually rupture. I'm honestly grateful that has not been part of my story, but I do have personal acquaintances that have had that as their story, and it's a tragic outcome. But having that village of support around you is really, really key. And even in my community, I know personally 10 plus individuals that have some form of EDS. And they say that the numbers are for this particular subtype are between 1 in 3,000 to 5,000 people.
Wow.
That's kind of a small number, but I honestly personally feel it could even be smaller because of the amount of people that I personally know through it. And thankfully, having that connection, having that village of support is really key. And I've made some lovely connections and learned a lot more on how to manage, or been able to do more research through connections on Facebook groups like the Oregon Ehlers Danlos Society, or EDS athletes, which I joined after to pursue more of my personal health journey.
Totally. Well, and I said that earlier because part of it is because out of relatability for anybody with an invisible condition, because everybody's gotten that, right? Well, okay, so you're set now, but you're not. That's what all these conditions, there's so much, I think I said this earlier, there's so much commonality between so many of these, no matter what it is. It doesn't have to be even in the same ballpark as two people with conditions could be standing right next to each other, but they have that in common, because a lot of times, because you can't see it, people don't think about it, and so they say, oh, surgery equals cure or whatever, you know what I mean? And so but
It's a management tool.
It's a management tool. Yeah. For me, surgery keeps me alive. It doesn't get rid of the problem. It does,
Exactly.
for you, it maintains so that you don't get worse. It's not that it completely obliterates it. So
And
yeah.
Ehlers-Danlos is a condition where the body has an abnormality in how it produces collagen or related proteins. And
Yeah.
so it literally, because collagen is a part of every facet of our body, it's affecting everything from your skin to your connective tissues, your gastrointestinal tract. So for instance, because of my heart arrhythmia and challenges with my heart, it affects, and POTS and all of those other symptoms, it affects my GI functions. And so constipation is a chronic daily management struggle, and learning how to manage that through diet and nutrition it is essential.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I get it. And I have a comment here that I'm going to throw up on the screen. That is a question about another thing that that it affects, right?
That
So
is a great question.
yeah.
And
So
that is, by the way, my mother.
yeah. Hey, Lee.
Hi, Mom. So I appreciate her bringing this up, because that really is part of the story of how I got diagnosed.
Yeah.
Some people think that having babies was what led to my pelvic reconstructive surgery. And it's a part of the story, but it's not the reason why. It's because of that weak connective tissue. So having pretty large babies, naturally, I ended up stretching a lot of that connective tissue. Well, when you get injured, when your tissues get injured or traumatized with a condition like EDS, you don't recover like normal people. So your body is, those ligaments, those tendons, they don't bounce back. So even before pregnancy, I was already having a lot of sacroiliac dysfunction, pelvic instability. So prior to children, I was already walking with a cane and intermittently. And so that's still a part of my story. I still need certain mobility aids, but when I use them, people get alarmed, like, "Oh my God, what happened to you? Get in a car accident?" No, it's just I woke up funny today.
Yeah.
No alarm to me. It's just my life. It's just how I
Yeah.
manage. But when you're dealing with being a new mom and having babies and not understanding why your body isn't functioning right, it is alarming and it is distressing. But you just kind of have to take it that one day at a time approach and learn self-love, learn self-care, and learn to be gentle with yourself, because the outcome, if you don't, is a
Yeah.
miserable life, and it really affects that mental health state. So,
Oh man. Yeah.
yeah. So, the challenges that the pregnancies put on my body was, eventually, with the birth of our second child, I had complications and hemorrhaging that determined having more children was too much of a risk for the health of the baby or myself. And so we as a family had to make the choice to enjoy the healthy two that we had, and hope that I could maintain some level of health to keep up with them and enjoy living and thriving and growing with them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've done it pretty well. I mean, good Lord. I mean, we're gonna talk about this in the next segment, because believe it or not, we're already in another commercial. But I want to talk about that in the next segment, because you have absolutely embodied that. I mean, so between being a business owner and being a bodybuilder, I've like, come on, I don't think you're the only person I know that's ever done that. So we're going to talk about that in the next segment, because come on, that's not necessarily a typical thing for anybody, much less somebody that's already been through all of this and then said, you know what I want to do? I just want to do, what would be cool is do this. So that is phenomenal. And so we're gonna talk about that in the next segment, and then we're also going to talk about how others can reach out to you and how others can get help that are experiencing this. So we will see you in just a couple minutes, Effie. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, guys, here we go. We're going to go to one more commercial break, and then I can't wait for you to hear the rest of the story. we will see you in just a couple minutes. Yeah, see you soon. All right, here we go. We are, time flies when you're having fun, you know, and we are our segment. It's crazy. I'm telling you, I told you this would go fast. This is like crazy. Yeah. So, but it's been so good, and I'm so glad that we are able to do this. And I know people have been getting a lot out of it. So, so we were going to talk about in this segment. I mean, we've been talking about all the craziness and all the stuff you had to get through to get to today, and now you are doing something absolutely unbelievable in my mind, because I probably because I don't think I could ever do it, but you are a bodybuilder.
That's correct. It took me a while to accept that word as what I do, because for me, it was just a health and wellness journey. You know, I'm trying to claim that for myself. And it was so hard fought in every day at the beginning was a challenge, but I needed to do it. I was what I call a desk jockey, and I worked behind a desk from the start of my career as, being on my own and being an independent young married woman. And I had office jobs, and that turned into a career as a computer programmer and working from home, doing web design, traveling around the country, teaching people software. And those hours and hours behind a desk were destroying my body. My posture was a wreck, and my body suffered the more for it. So when I started to recognize what was going on with my pelvic prolapse and the other symptoms of my posture, chronic rib subluxations and other such things, I bit the bullet, and I finally pursued just committing, that once a week or once every 3 months, or sometimes maybe occasionally once a year fitness program at the gym that wasn't accomplishing anything. I wasn't maintaining a healthy way of living. And I was complacent, self-loathing. I didn't like the skin I was in because I was uncomfortable. I didn't feel well. I didn't have energy. And I literally was wishing my life away. I wished I had energy. I wished I felt better. I wished I looked better. I wished I fit those clothes. And it was toxic. Yeah. It was self-destructive. And it came to that point of realizing I'm the only one capable of changing anything. Nobody's going to do it for me. Nobody's going to hold my hand. And at first, I kind of needed that drill sergeant to say, do this exercise, crack that whip, follow this routine. And even that wasn't successful because my husband would say, well, can't you design your own workout program? And I'm like, no, I have no idea what I just did. I didn't have self-investment. I wasn't owning the experience. I wasn't owning the process. And so he invited me to join him on a journey of discovering strength training. And we started at home with some 5 and 10 pound dumbbells. And within about 2 to 3 months, I was enjoying the experience. I was improving my weight strength. And I chose early on to kind of document that process. And the pictures just show me kind of lackluster, sallow, frumpy, and unhappy in my body. And it's good to look back at those to see how far I've come, because I can see kind of into my soul in some of those pictures. And I remember so intimately what it felt like being in that body. And to choose to take those steps of faith and make a consistent effort, one day at a time, one 30-minute program at a time, and follow a basic nutrition guide, I started seeing results. I started feeling shifts in my energy balance, and I started seeing shifts in my posture. My shoulders started pulling back. My body wasn't slumped forward and rounded. My skin started tightening up. And it was exciting. And, to feel good in your own skin, to feel sexy again, and to feel vibrant, because I now had renewed energy. And it wasn't something I'd ever experienced before because of my lifelong problems. I was always pulled from sports because of complaining of pain and injury and challenges. And it was just hard, and I couldn't keep up, and my heart arrhythmia would flare up. Lots of excuses, plenty of excuses, but no ownership, right?
Yeah.
And so by staying committed, I started to see results. So by the time I went through that pelvic reconstructive surgery, I had been on my health and wellness journey for about 2 years. And I knew going into that experience that I was going to suffer in my mental health with not being consistent with a program and a routine. And so I decided to commit to educating myself further and pursuing my studies to become a certified personal trainer, which I did through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. And that was such a valuable investment of my time during those 3 to 4 months of recovery, because 5 weeks after the pelvic reconstructive surgery, I also had abdominal reconstructive surgery for diastasis recti that I suffered from the 2 pregnancies, and an umbilical hernia that was where my umbilical was fused to my intestines. And so some things that needed attention. And to come out of that kind of hitting the ground running and feeling like I was in a renewed body, but I didn't come out of it in a renewed body, but I came out of it with a renewed sense of invested education, understanding, and knowledge that gave me an opportunity to receive a job as a personal trainer at a local gym. And so I started enjoying the experiencing, even though I was suffering behind the scenes with rectal incontinence and ongoing pelvic prolapse and other things. I was showing up at the gym, helping clients and elderly individuals with stability and balance and coordination and other things. And I loved the education that I could infuse in others, and that investment in body awareness that I was helping them achieve. And through that process, I continued my own journey and got really to a point of defiance against my doctors, who said, well, you're never going to be able to, lift more than 25 pounds. And I was like, watch me.
Right.
And so I was tired of excuses. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I wasn't willing to just settle anymore. And so that tenacity, that grit came with giving myself permission to just follow the process and see what I was capable of, because I realized I was standing in my own way. I was setting my own limitations, and I didn't even know what I was capable of because I'd never tried.
Yeah. Well, and that's something you have to realize for yourself. You know, you
Yeah.
can't, nobody can, like I was saying before in the last segment, you can hear it from 1,000 other people, but till it sinks in, that's it. So,
Yeah.
so
And
after all of that, what I have two
Yeah.
important questions for you that I want to get to before we get to the end here,
Yeah.
because they're important. First one is, after all of that, how do you find hope day to day?
I love that question. And I appreciate it, because the hope comes in, it's kind of sad actually. Because it's genetic. So because I now understand my symptoms, I can see them in my children.
Mhm.
And so my support of my mother and my sister, who's struggling with her own health issues, which I strongly feel are EDS related, they are who give me hope. You know, I
Yeah.
fight so hard to help them understand that they have control of certain things. You know, they can't control what they can't control about this condition, but there are so many things that they can control. Investing in their nutrition, investing in their health and wellness. And it doesn't mean becoming a bodybuilder. It doesn't mean becoming a strength trainer. You know, for me, that decision was just a bucket list. It was a dream. It was a, you know, I'm going to turn 40. What if I did a fitness competition? Wouldn't that be cool to say I did that one time in my life?
Nice.
Okay, I did it, and walked off stage my very first experience as a pro with a pro card. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And my husband, Dirk, he gave me the permission to say, you know, you don't know what your body's going to do. Ride the wave, enjoy the high, see where it
Yeah.
takes you. In 2 years' time, I've competed in 6 fitness competitions.
Nice.
I have basically embedded myself in the local natural bodybuilding community and become an ally for helping people find their success in achieving their greatness in whatever means that is. And you know, I'm not like the world's best personal trainer. I don't have this big following of clients and this long list of people that I work with, but the people that I do, I'm blessed to work with. I have several clients with EDS that have impacted my life so greatly because I've been able to share some tools and tricks that they've been able to adopt for themselves. And even one of my clients says, you know, my PT says I have the strongest glutes out of all of his PT clients. And that's very uncommon. So how are you achieving this? And it's like, wow, that's such a success. That's such an achievement. And honestly, I just get that high from helping others realize that we are not bound by our limitations. We are not bound to live a life of suffering. Every day is a gift, and it's a joy. And the hope comes in realizing that if we just get out of our way, we don't know what we're capable of. And so even my own potential is still untapped. And I'm excited because that means I don't know what's going to come. And some suffering may come with it, but I have learned through this journey that hardships refine us. Hardships make us grateful for what we do have success and achievement in hindsight, in retrospect of.
Yeah.
And I am hopeful that my children won't suffer as long as I did, because we know and we understand and we see those symptoms and we're helping them manage them better. And so it's not oh my God, I'm sorry you have this condition, woe is us. It's you have it, we're helping you through this, and life is amazing. You're going to do amazing things. Our youngest son is an all-star athlete. He could do anything except for contact sports. You know, don't do that. But, you know, he could do anything. He's a very talented kid. And our oldest, he has hyperflexibility, hypermobility, sun allergy like me. But man, he's a gifted artist, brilliant mind, and the hope comes with seeing what's to come.
Right. I love that. So that's perfect. And in 10 seconds or less, how can people reach you?
My website, effie.fit, or Instagram, I actually go by the handle Strongword because, life is about going onward and strongward. So that's strongward at ward.effie.fit. This is just my little niche way of saying, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but that's how I can be reached, is effie.fit.
I love it. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff, for this opportunity. It's been such a blessing, and I'm so delighted to call you brother-in-law and be connected in these ways and witness what you're doing with this invisible condition mission and journey that you're on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and it's been amazing, and it's been great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. We are down to nothing, so we're out of here. But please join me on Friday, August 4th. Lucinda Sykes is going to be talking to us about something that I have fought my whole life: sleep. We're going to be talking about sleep and how important it is with everybody, but especially people with invisible conditions. So join us Friday, August 4th, when we talk to Lucinda. It's going to be amazing. Till then, have an amazing day. We'll see you next time.